The large ship descended slowly through the clouds of Zyphera, its metallic hull glinting under the twin suns. It was not a warship, nor a vessel designed for battle. It was a diplomatic envoy, sleek and silent, carrying the first human to ever step foot beyond Earth in an official capacity. Inside, Dr. Elias Kane sat quietly, his hands resting on the simple armrests of his chair. He had trained for years for this moment, but no training could prepare him for the scale of what awaited. Through the windows, Elias could see the sprawling capital city below, towers of shimmering glass and metal stretching far into the sky, connected by bridges that sparkled like threads of light. Alien ships moved with precision, smaller vessels weaving around the massive halls, while immense craft hovered, waiting for permission to dock. This was no ordinary city. It was a palace, a fortress, a center of power. It was alive with authority, and Elias felt the weight of countless eyes upon him even before he had stepped off his ship. When the ramp descended, he took a deep breath. The air smelled strange, sweet but heavy, with faint traces of metal and minerals. The floor of the landing bay was polished, reflecting the twin suns' light in sharp patterns. Figures began to gather, some tall and delicate, others short and thick-skinned. Their eyes, shapes, and colors unlike anything human, watched him. Many whispered among themselves, pointing at him, their tones a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Humans were rare, almost mythical in these parts. Most of these species had never seen one, and they had long assumed humans weak, insignificant, or even unworthy of interstellar attention. Elias kept his composure. As the ambassador of Earth, he could not falter. He stepped down from the ramp, moving carefully but confidently. His movements were natural, precise, calm. Each footstep carried the quiet confidence of someone who understood both fear and courage. Every being present noticed it. Some frowned, unconsciously assessing him. Others tilted their heads, intrigued. From above, a deep voice echoed through the hall, amplified by unseen mechanisms. "Welcome, human," it said, rich and commanding. The sound vibrated through the floor, through the walls, settling like a presence into the room. Elias looked up and saw her for the first time. Queen Thalira, ruler of Zyphera, stood at the top of a grand staircase. She was taller than any human could be, but her figure was elegant and commanding. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, were fixed entirely on him. Her skin shimmered faintly, changing color as if reflecting her mood. Around her, advisors and council members whispered, but she made no sign of acknowledgement toward them. The hall itself was massive. The ceilings arched high above, held by pillars that seemed to hum with energy. Holographic displays floated midair, showing distant planets, trade routes, and star systems. The walls were decorated with intricate patterns of light and color, constantly shifting in ways that made the room feel alive. And in the center, the dais where the council would meet waited, silent, and imposing. Elias took another step forward. The eyes of dozens of species followed him, some with suspicion, some with curiosity, and a few with clear disdain. They had expected him to be smaller, weaker, perhaps trembling. Instead, he carried himself like someone who belonged in the galaxy, not someone who was stepping into it for the first time. Whispers spread like wildfire, and for the first time, Elias sensed the undercurrent of tension that had been building since his arrival had finally surfaced. Queen Thalira's voice rang again, sharp and decisive. "Let this meeting begin." There were beings with elongated limbs, glowing veins tracing their skin, chitinous exoskeletons, eyes that rotated independently, and others whose very shape seemed liquid, moving fluidly as they walked. They took their seats, forming a wide semicircle around the central dais. The air was tense, thick with expectation. Then something unexpected happened. A figure moved forward from the side, a smaller alien whose skin flickered with a subtle blue light. "Your Highness," he said, his tone polite but firm, "we have heard much of this human. Should he truly be allowed to participate in our council? Humans are limited in capability, as you well know." Some nodded, murmuring agreement. Others looked uneasy, unsure whether the human before them could be trusted to survive the scrutiny of the Zypherian Council. Elias felt the weight of their judgment pressing down, yet he made no move to respond. That was the moment he realized that every eye was not just watching him. They were measuring, calculating, and comparing him to their own species' abilities. Every gesture, every glance, even his silence would be interpreted. Queen Thalira leaned slightly forward. Her eyes, sharp as blades, narrowed. Then she shouted, a sound so clear and commanding that it silenced the hall immediately. "He is my human." Humans were outsiders, weak and fragile in the eyes of the galaxy's most powerful rulers. And yet here, standing tall before them, was Elias Kane, acknowledged personally by the ruler of Zyphera. Elias' heart skipped a beat, but his face remained calm. He did not fully understand what it meant yet, nor the risks it carried. To be claimed by a queen was not merely an honor. It was a mark, a signal to every species in the room that this human mattered. Some would see it as protection, others as provocation. Some would see it as an insult to their own pride. One of the elder council members, a being with multiple limbs and eyes scattered across its face, spoke carefully. "Your Highness, may we ask the reason for this claim?" Some whispered, others shook their heads, clearly uncomfortable with the idea, yet the power in her voice left no room for debate. Even those who disagreed knew challenging the queen openly would be unwise. Elias finally spoke, his voice steady but humble. "I am honored by your trust, Your Highness. I will do my best to live up to it." Then slowly the council members resumed their positions, some reluctantly, some with visible suspicion. Elias walked toward the dais, each step careful but confident. The eyes of the galaxy's most powerful beings followed him, yet he did not falter. He felt the weight of their attention, but also a strange thrill. He was being tested, not just by the trials that would come later, but by this very moment. And he was beginning to understand that humans were more than what others thought them to be. As he took his seat, the queen leaned closer, her voice low enough that only he could hear. "Do not be afraid of them, Elias. They will try to intimidate you to make you doubt yourself. But remember, humans have survived far worse, and we have a strength that many in this galaxy underestimate. Use it." Council members discussed matters of trade, exploration, and security, but their eyes kept drifting to Elias. Some were openly skeptical, questioning his understanding of complex systems, his capacity for strategy, his very judgment. Others quietly began to watch his reactions, noting his calmness, his clarity, and his quick thinking. A discussion about planetary defense quickly escalated into debate about tactics and innovation. Aliens proposed complex, rigid plans, relying on overwhelming firepower or sheer numbers. Elias listened carefully, then asked simple questions, pointing out weaknesses in the strategies and offering alternative solutions that were surprisingly logical. He used examples from human history, from strategy games, and even from his knowledge of technology on Earth. The room shifted. Some council members frowned, others leaned forward, intrigued. Then, unexpectedly, the Queen's voice cut across the hall again. "He is not just capable, he is resourceful, clever, and observant. And he will not fail us because he understands what many here have forgotten. Survival depends on more than power. It depends on wit, courage, and unity." And Elias, sitting quietly, felt a quiet surge of pride mixed with a hint of fear. He was aware that this was only the beginning. Outside, the city of Zyphera shimmered under the fading twin suns. Inside, the grand hall remained tense, alive with whispered calculations, silent judgments, and new possibilities. A human had arrived, claimed by a queen, and the galaxy's most powerful species had been forced to acknowledge it. For Elias Kane, it was not just a moment of triumph. It was the first step into a galaxy that had never truly known what humans were capable of. And as the meeting continued, he knew that every choice, every decision, and every action would be watched, measured, and remembered. Yet he also knew that he was ready. Humans had faced impossible odds before, and they had always found a way. The Queen's eyes met his once more, and in that gaze, Elias understood something fundamental. He was not just representing humanity. He was proving it. And in the halls of Zyphera, that truth was about to be tested. After the meeting ended, the council members slowly filed out of the hall, some still murmuring to themselves. Elias remained seated for a moment, letting the tension settle, though his mind raced. Every eye had been on him, and the Queen's bold claim had sent ripples through the political landscape of Zyphera. He could feel it. Some looked at him with suspicion, others with curiosity, and a few with outright fear. He had become a symbol, whether he wanted it or not. A gentle hand touched his shoulder. Elias turned to see Queen Thalira herself, moving down the stairs with fluid grace. Her presence was magnetic, commanding attention even in a hall now empty of the council. "Come with me," she said, her voice low but insistent. "We need to speak where no one else can hear." Elias felt small in comparison, a human in a world of alien grandeur, yet her attention focused entirely on him gave him a strange sense of purpose. Finally, they arrived at a chamber high above the city, windows stretching from floor to ceiling, offering a panoramic view of Zyphera's towers and the ships hovering nearby. The twin suns were beginning to set, casting the city in hues of gold and crimson. Thalira gestured for him to sit on one of the chairs facing her desk. "You are curious," she said, leaning forward slightly, "and cautious. That is good. You must be both if you wish to survive here." Why would you claim me in front of the council like that? Humans are barely known beyond Earth. Most beings would see me as weak. Things that will threaten not just Zyphera, but the entire galaxy. And I believe humans may hold the key to survival. It is not a species in the way you understand species, nor a force that can be confronted with weapons alone. It consumes worlds, entire civilizations. Planets vanish without warning, leaving nothing behind but echoes and ruin. Entire worlds, entire civilizations wiped out in an instant, and yet the Queen did not sound afraid, only resolute. "How can humans possibly help against something like that?" he asked. "We are not as advanced as you or the Council or other species in this galaxy. Humans have something many of us lack. You are adaptable, creative. You think in ways that do not follow patterns or rules. You improvise when others freeze. And perhaps most importantly, you care about each other in ways we do not always understand. That combination, wit, courage, empathy, is a weapon the predator cannot anticipate." To hear such praise from a queen, from an alien of immense power, was humbling. But he also sensed the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He was no longer just a representative of Earth. He was a potential shield against annihilation. "Then you truly believe I can make a difference?" he asked cautiously. Thalira smiled faintly, though her expression remained serious. "I do. That is why I claimed you. That is why I brought you here. And that is why I will protect you, at least while you prove yourself. Others may not understand. They may see you as insignificant, a pawn, or even a threat. But I see potential. And by understanding not just our technology and strategies, but the way we think. The predator will not attack in straightforward ways. It will exploit weaknesses, manipulate, adapt. We must do the same." A holographic display appeared, showing star systems, fleets, and strange energy signatures moving beyond known space. "This is where it begins," she said. "You will need to study, to think, and eventually to act. But first you must survive the trials of our world. That will teach you more about yourself than anything else." The predator was visible as a swirling mass of energy and matter, shifting constantly, moving faster than any starship could. It seemed alive, almost intelligent, consuming everything in its path. He felt a shiver run down his spine. "We can stop it," he asked quietly. "We may not stop it alone," Thalira admitted. "But humans have a unique way of finding solutions when others cannot. That is why you are here." By the time the session ended, Elias felt both overwhelmed and invigorated. The stakes were higher than anything he had ever imagined, but he also understood the potential humans carried. For the first time, he realized that survival depended not just on power or technology, but on intelligence, adaptability, and courage, the very qualities humans often overlooked in themselves. As they walked back through the corridors, Thalira spoke again, this time more softly. "You will be watched," she said. "Some will try to test you, to deceive you, to push you to your limits. Others may attempt to eliminate you, seeing you as a threat to their influence. Trust must be earned, and alliances must be chosen carefully. And I will do my best." Hours passed as he pored over details, calculating routes, analyzing possible weaknesses, and imagining strategies. The predator was unlike anything Earth had ever faced, but he felt a strange confidence growing inside him. He had survived challenges before. Humans had survived challenges before, and now he would survive this one too. As night fell over Zyphera, the twin suns replaced by the glow of distant stars, a message arrived at his console. It was brief but clear. "Prepare for the trials. They begin tomorrow." Not for himself, not for Thalira, not for humanity. Every step, every choice, every thought mattered. He spent the rest of the night reviewing every detail he could find about Zyphera's technologies, their fleets, and their methods of training. He studied alien languages, communication patterns, and tactical simulations. He discovered that even the smallest nuances mattered: how a species interpreted trust, how they reacted to pressure, how they adapted to sudden change. These were the kinds of things humans did naturally, often without thinking. And now they would be his greatest tools. By morning, Elias was exhausted but ready. When he entered the training hall, he found other beings already assembled. Some tall, some short, some with multiple limbs or glowing skin, all of them observing him with a mix of curiosity and judgment. Thalira stood at the far end, her presence commanding attention even here, in a room dedicated entirely to testing the galaxy's best minds and warriors. "You will face challenges unlike any you have known," she said. "They are designed to test your intellect, your courage, your ability to adapt. Succeed, and you will prove that humans are worthy. Fail, and you will learn." Her lips curved slightly. "Failure is always a lesson. But success may change the way the galaxy sees your species forever." And now, in this alien hall, with the Queen's words echoing in his mind, he understood that he was not alone. He carried the strength of his species, the ingenuity of countless generations, and the hope of Earth itself. The first trial began. Aliens moved into positions, holographic displays lit up with simulations, and the challenge was revealed. It was complex, demanding strategy, observation, and quick thinking. Some participants faltered, unsure how to respond. Others hesitated, relying on brute force or sheer technology. Elias paused, observing carefully, calculating patterns, and considering possibilities. Then he acted. Step by step, he solved the problem, adapting to changing conditions, predicting moves before they happened, and using both logic and intuition. By the end of the trial, even the most skeptical observers were forced to acknowledge the human's ability. Thalira's eyes shone with approval, a faint smile on her face. "You are learning," she said quietly as he left the hall. "And the galaxy is watching." But that very underestimation was a strength, and as long as he remembered who he was and what humanity could do, he would survive and perhaps even thrive in a universe that had never believed in him. The next morning, Elias woke early, the light of Zyphra's twin suns streaming through the wide windows of his quarters. His body ached from the previous day's trial, but his mind was alert, eager. He knew the challenges ahead would not be simple exercises of strength or knowledge. They were tests of adaptation, intelligence, and courage, designed to push every participant to the edge of their abilities. He dressed quickly and stepped into the hall, where a crowd of aliens had already gathered. The hall was different today. Holographic panels floated above the ground, projecting maps of distant planets, strange energy fields, and simulations of alien wildlife. The air hummed faintly, almost as if it were alive. Thalira stood at the far end, her figure commanding attention even in the midst of so many beings. She raised her hand, and the murmuring ceased instantly. "Today begins the trials that will show not only your skill, but your capacity to survive in the galaxy," she said. "Each of you will face challenges unlike anything you have known. The path is not simple. The answers are not obvious. Adaptation is the key." Some whispered, their voices carrying the familiar undertone of doubt that humans were unworthy of such attention. Elias felt the familiar weight of their judgment, but he did not falter. He had faced impossible odds before in his studies and simulations on Earth, and he understood that observation, calmness, and creativity were often stronger weapons than brute force. The first challenge was revealed. A holographic simulation of a hostile world flickered into existence before them. Jagged mountains rose beneath swirling clouds, rivers of liquid metal cut through barren plains, and strange, predatory creatures stalked the terrain. Participants were required to navigate the world, gather resources, and survive long enough to complete a task designed by Thalira's council. Many aliens rushed forward, confident in their abilities, relying on speed or advanced technology. They moved quickly but without care, triggering hidden traps and miscalculations that set them back almost immediately. Elias paused. He observed the terrain, the creatures, the patterns of light and shadow. Unlike others, he did not rush. He calculated. He considered the creatures' behaviors, the structure of the land, and the available resources. Then he moved deliberately, quietly, using his knowledge of patterns, physics, and survival techniques learned from Earth. The other participants noticed him. Some frowned, puzzled at how a human could approach the challenge with such calm precision. Others whispered among themselves, beginning to reconsider the assumptions they had held about his species. Hours passed. The simulation evolved. The predators became more aggressive, natural hazards intensified, and the environment shifted unexpectedly. Many aliens panicked, making mistakes that cost them valuable time and resources. Elias adapted, improvising as the conditions changed. When a river of molten metal threatened to block his path, he built a simple bridge from available materials, using leverage and gravity to move large stones into place. When a predator attempted to ambush him, he set a distraction and used the creature's own instincts against it. Step by step, he advanced. At one point, he encountered another participant, a tall alien with 4 limbs and glowing veins. The creature had trapped itself while trying to eliminate a predator with force rather than strategy. Elias hesitated for a moment, then offered a hand, showing how to escape without harm. The alien regarded him warily, then accepted the guidance. Together, they navigated the hazard. By the end of the simulation, Elias had completed the objectives efficiently and with minimal risk. The other participants arrived afterward, some successful, others exhausted and frustrated. The murmurs of doubt were quiet now, replaced by a sense of astonishment. Humans, once considered weak, had survived challenges that the most experienced aliens struggled with. Thalira's eyes shone as she observed him. "You are learning quickly," she said, her voice carrying through the hall. "Your ingenuity and adaptability are the qualities we need. Remember them, for they will be tested further." The mission was simple in description: traverse the terrain, collect energy crystals from dangerous zones, and return before nightfall. The task was straightforward, but the planet itself seemed determined to challenge every step. As soon as they landed, the other participants moved quickly, relying on speed and brute strength. Elias moved carefully, analyzing the environment first. He noticed subtle signs of unstable terrain, rocks that would collapse under weight, hidden crevices, and creatures moving in the shadows. Using both observation and intuition, he chose a path that avoided danger while maintaining progress. Halfway through the journey, a sudden storm erupted. Winds howled, carrying corrosive particles that could erode skin and machinery. The others struggled to maintain balance, some retreating in fear. Elias focused, using the terrain as cover and improvising a simple shield from debris to protect himself. His careful preparation allowed him to continue while others were forced to pause. During the journey, he encountered another challenge. A chasm blocked the only apparent path to the energy crystals. Some of the aliens hesitated, unsure how to cross. Elias observed the edges, the stability of the rocks, and the potential for natural bridges. He used a combination of physics and ingenuity to create a temporary crossing, allowing not only himself but a few hesitant aliens to pass safely. By doing so, he demonstrated a combination of intelligence, courage, and cooperation that many species rarely exhibited. As the sun set, Elias returned with the crystals, completing the task. The other participants arrived later, some struggling, others resentful. Whispers spread among them. Humans, they realized, were not predictable or weak. They adapted, solved problems, and even helped others succeed along the way. Back on Zyphera, Thalira greeted him personally. "You have done well," she said, her voice carrying pride and approval. "These trials are designed not just to test strength, but to reveal true potential. You are beginning to show what humans are capable of, and others are noticing. Remember, this is only the beginning." By observing carefully and thinking critically, he began to understand not only the trials but the thinking of other species as well. During one exercise, he was placed in a cooperative scenario with other participants from different species. They were forced to work together to complete a mission requiring coordination, communication, and strategic thinking. Many struggled, unable to overcome language barriers, differing instincts, and conflicting priorities. Elias, however, remained calm. He observed, listened, and proposed solutions in simple, clear language. Slowly, he gained their trust. They began to follow his guidance, their combined efforts far more effective than any individual attempt. Thalira observed from afar, her expression a mix of pride and contemplation. Humans, she had always believed, had potential, but seeing it manifest in real time among alien species reinforced her conviction. Elias was not only surviving these challenges, he was excelling in ways that others could not predict. By the end of the week, word of his successes had spread throughout the palace and even to nearby sectors. Aliens who had once doubted him were now watching closely, some with respect, others with quiet concern. Humans, they realized, were unpredictable, clever, and adaptable, a species that could survive and even thrive in ways they had not imagined. One evening, Elias returned to his quarters exhausted. His body ached, but his mind was alert. He reflected on the trials, the strategies that worked, and the lessons he had learned. Humans had survived impossible odds before, often with nothing but ingenuity, courage, and cooperation. Now he realized the same principles could apply in this galaxy of endless challenges. A message arrived from Thalira, brief and to the point. "Prepare for the next phase. You will leave Zyphera for the first time. What you learn outside our borders will determine how the galaxy sees humans forever." Now the real test awaited, beyond the safety of Zyphera in a galaxy filled with unknown dangers and unpredictable challenges. That night, as the twin moons rose over the city, Elias reflected on everything he had learned. Observation, patience, creativity, and courage, these were his tools. Cooperation, empathy, and adaptability, these were his strengths. He had survived every trial so far, but the galaxy itself would be the ultimate test. When morning arrived, he stepped onto the shuttle that would take him beyond Zyphera. The other participants, some still skeptical, some quietly admiring, watched as he prepared. Elias knew that whatever awaited him in the stars, he was ready. Humanity had survived impossible odds before, and he would prove that humans could survive, and even excel, among the stars. The shuttle hummed quietly as it left Zyphera's orbit, slipping past the protective layers of the planet's atmosphere. Elias sat in his seat, staring out at the galaxy unfolding beyond the viewport. Stars glittered like scattered diamonds, vast and distant, yet filled with unseen dangers. The Council of Aliens, the trials, the Queen's declaration, they all seemed distant here in the silence of space. Yet Elias knew that the real challenges were only beginning. Beside him, a team of alien specialists prepared the equipment for the first mission beyond Zyphera. They were skilled, proud, and cautious, their movements precise. Many eyed him with skepticism, whispering quietly among themselves. Elias ignored them. He had learned to rely on observation and patience. Their judgment was neither irrelevant nor threatening, it was merely data. He studied them, noting their strengths, habits, and weaknesses as much as he studied the stars outside. When they arrived at the first outpost, it was nothing like Zyphera. The planet was barren, a rocky world with sparse atmosphere and violent winds that swept across jagged cliffs. The outpost itself was a series of domed structures, reinforced with alien alloys, designed to withstand both natural hazards and attack. Their mission was to secure energy nodes, stabilize them, and report anomalies. It sounded simple, but Elias knew better. In this galaxy, simple often concealed danger. The first sign came almost immediately. As they exited the shuttle, a low vibration ran through the ground. Sensors lit up, warning of movement beyond the cliffs. The alien specialists tensed. Elias stepped forward, calm, and scanned the horizon. Shadows shifted between rocks, predatory creatures, larger than any human animal, moving with deliberate coordination. They were not aggressive yet, but their intelligence was obvious. The other aliens debated tactics, arguing over how to confront the creatures with force. Elias raised a hand. "Stop," he said quietly. "Let's observe. Notice how they move, their timing, their patterns. They will reveal weaknesses if we don't act too quickly." Then he led the team along a path that avoided direct contact, using the terrain to conceal movement and leveraging natural barriers as protection. Hours passed as they reached the first energy node. It was situated at the edge of a cliff, exposed to wind and predators alike. While the aliens prepared defensive systems, Elias scanned the surrounding area. He noticed a series of rock formations that could redirect the wind and create a temporary barrier. Using cables and a simple pulley system from the outpost, he adjusted the rocks, reducing the exposure of the energy node. The alien specialists were impressed. "You think differently," one muttered. "Most would just fight." Sometimes it's about thinking ahead. Using light, sound, and movement, he guided them away from the energy nodes, ensuring the team could continue their work safely. By dawn, the energy node was stabilized and the predators had retreated. The aliens looked at Elias with newfound respect, realizing that his approach, observation, adaptation, and clever use of resources had saved them from potential disaster. He did not boast. He simply nodded and prepared for the next task. Over the next several missions, the pattern repeated. Each planet presented a new challenge: extreme temperatures, unpredictable terrain, hostile wildlife, or anomalies in the energy fields. Where others relied on brute strength or advanced technology, Elias used ingenuity. He analyzed the environment, predicted hazards, and devised solutions that no simulation could teach. On a particularly harsh world, the ground shifted beneath them, revealing a hidden chasm. The alien specialists froze, unsure how to proceed. Elias assessed the situation. Using a combination of lightweight materials and leverage from the outpost supplies, he constructed a makeshift bridge, allowing the team to cross safely. Along the way, he guided two hesitant aliens, demonstrating not only strategy but leadership and empathy. The Queen's words echoed in his mind. Humans are underestimated because they think differently, adapt quickly, and care in ways others often overlook. Each trial, each mission reaffirmed that truth. He was not just surviving, he was excelling. But the real test came when they approached a planet affected by the Predator's distant passage. The atmosphere was unstable, fluctuating in temperature and density. Sensors detected unusual energy readings, waves that could disable electronics and harm biological systems. Communication with the shuttle became unreliable. The alien specialists were tense. Some whispered of retreat, of abandoning the mission. Elias studied the data, noticing subtle patterns in the energy waves. "It's not random," he said. "There is structure here. If we understand it, we can move safely." The predators never appeared here, but the environment itself was a challenge. The team marveled at his ability to interpret the patterns, to turn danger into manageable conditions. After completing the mission, Elias finally allowed himself a moment to breathe. He looked up at the alien stars, feeling both exhaustion and exhilaration. He realized that every mission, every challenge was teaching him not only about the galaxy but about humanity's potential. Humans were resourceful, empathetic, and clever, qualities that could overcome obstacles far beyond physical strength. Yet Elias knew that this was only preparation. The Predator remained out there, beyond known space, unpredictable and powerful. These missions were not merely exercises. They were lessons in survival, in adaptation, in proving that humans could navigate complexity where others might fail. During a brief rest in one of the shuttle's compartments, he reviewed the data from all completed missions. Patterns emerged. Energy anomalies, environmental hazards, predator behavior, each offered clues not only about survival but about strategy. He realized that combining human intuition with alien technology created solutions that neither species could achieve alone. The Queen had been right. Humanity's greatest strengths were often overlooked. While other species relied on power, control, or predictability, humans thrived in uncertainty. They adapted when conditions changed, they solved problems creatively, and they connected with others in ways that inspired cooperation. As the shuttle returned to Zyphera after several weeks of missions, the team carried back more than data. They carried back respect for the human who had guided them through danger, who had solved problems they could not, and who had remained calm when fear threatened to dominate. The whispers of doubt had been replaced by cautious admiration, and Elias had begun to see the first signs of genuine allies among the alien specialists. Queen Thalira awaited them at the palace. She had been informed of every mission, every success, and every lesson learned. When Elias stepped forward, she inclined her head. "You have done more than survive," she said. "You have demonstrated what humans are capable of. Others are beginning to see it, even if they do not yet understand it fully. The environment, the hazards, they dictated my actions. Humans survive by observing and adapting. That is what I have done. And that courage, creativity, and empathy are forces the galaxy cannot ignore. The galaxy is watching, Elias Kane, and your actions will inspire not just Zyphera but countless worlds beyond." He was a symbol of what humans could achieve. In the days that followed, he prepared for the next stage. Supplies were checked, strategies reviewed, and simulations run for potential hazards. Yet he also reflected on the lessons learned: careful observation, creativity, adaptability, empathy, and courage. These were his tools, more valuable than any weapon or technology. They were what made humans capable of surviving and thriving in a galaxy that often underestimated them. As he looked out at the stars once more, he felt a growing determination. The Predator, the dangers of distant worlds, the skepticism of alien civilizations, they were all challenges, but not insurmountable ones. Humans had faced impossible odds before. They had adapted, survived, and often prevailed. And now, in the vastness of space, that same spirit would be tested again and proven once more. Elias knew that the real trials were only beginning. The galaxy was a dangerous place, filled with threats beyond imagination. Yet he also knew something else. Humanity had a power that no one else could match, a force beyond technology or strength. It was the power to adapt, to think, to care, and to persevere. And as long as he remembered that, he would not just survive. He would change the way the galaxy viewed his species forever. The galaxy stretched out before Elias Kane like a dark sea, filled with stars and unknown dangers. The Predator, the silent threat that had loomed beyond known space for generations, had left destruction in its wake. Entire star systems had vanished without warning. Yet now, Elias and a small allied fleet of Zypherians, humans, and other species were moving toward its last detected location. The air in the command shuttle was tense, a mixture of fear, anticipation, and hope. Every crew member knew what was at stake. Elias stood at the viewport watching a cloud of swirling energy in the distance. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The Predator was vast, constantly shifting, a mass of light and dark energy that seemed both alive and mechanical. Sensors struggled to read it. Weapons scans bounced off it as if it were intangible, yet the energy readings showed it could obliterate entire planets in seconds. The other species on the shuttle exchanged worried glances. Many whispered that this was impossible, that no one could survive an encounter with such a force. Elias felt their doubt, but he did not share it. He had learned to focus, to observe, and to act. The Queen's words echoed in his mind. "You are underestimated because you think differently. That is your strength." He repeated them silently, letting the phrase guide his thoughts. Power alone would not win this fight. Strategy, creativity, and adaptability would. He turned to the control panel, analyzing the Predator's energy waves, its patterns, its unpredictable pulses. "We need to stabilize it," Elias said to the crew. "Direct attacks won't work, but we can manipulate the energy around it to limit its movement. If we synchronize with its patterns, we can create an opening to strike safely." I know we have to try it my way." A single misstep could destroy them all. Hours passed. The Predator pulsed and shifted, sensing threats it could not directly engage, but Elias' calculations held. Slowly, they began to restrict its movement, funneling it toward a specific sector where energy dampeners had been placed. Each adjustment required coordination, patience, and trust. Some aliens faltered, but Elias kept them focused. "Observe, adapt, act," he reminded them. Then came the first major surge. The Predator released a wave of energy stronger than anything sensors had predicted. Alarms blared. Some crew members panicked. Elias' mind raced, but he remained calm. He calculated the trajectory of the surge and ordered shields to adjust at precise angles. The wave struck, powerful and destructive, but the fleet held. Some ships were damaged, but no lives were lost. "Good," Elias said, voice steady. "Now we move again, keep following the pattern." Where they acted decisively, the energy was deflected or wasted. "Timing is everything," he shouted. "Move on my signal." It was like a dance, and the Predator responded like a partner learning new steps, trying to anticipate moves it could not predict. The tension was unbearable, but Elias' clarity and confidence kept the fleet synchronized. Finally, the Predator was contained within the dampener field. It pulsed violently, unable to break free. Sensors showed its energy levels fluctuating, weakening. Elias gave the signal. A fleet of Xipherian ships launched synchronized energy pulses, amplifying the dampeners and forcing the Predator into temporary stasis. For a moment, the galaxy held its breath. The Predator roared, an alien sound that vibrated through the shuttle and across the fleet. Yet Elias remained focused. He saw an opportunity. The Predator's energy pulses, while powerful, were structured. They followed patterns he had observed throughout the engagement. He instructed the fleet to create a resonance sequence, using their combined energy outputs to amplify the Predator's own instability. "Now," he commanded. The fleet executed perfectly. Energy waves aligned, frequencies resonated, and the Predator shuddered. Its shape became chaotic, unpredictable, disoriented. The field contained it, but Elias knew this was not permanent. They had to act decisively. Using a coordinated strike, the fleet created a channel of concentrated energy, directing it at the Predator's core instability. The Predator reacted violently, but the resonance destabilized it further. Light exploded in all directions as the mass of energy twisted, pulsed, and then collapsed in on itself. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. Then gradually the reading stabilized. The Predator was neutralized, contained, weakened, and no longer a threat to nearby systems. The fleet erupted in quiet cheers, relief, and astonishment. They had survived a force that had destroyed entire worlds, and they had done so under the direction of a human strategist. Elias allowed himself a faint smile. Humanity had survived again. They had adapted, observed, and acted where others might have failed. When the fleet returned to Xiphera, they were greeted with awe. Queen Thalira stood on the observation platform, her expression one of pride and quiet triumph. "You have done what many thought impossible," she said, her voice carrying across the landing bay. "Not through brute force, not through superior technology, but through intelligence, courage, and ingenuity. You have proven that humans are more than they appear. Humans are capable of this because we never stop thinking, never stop learning, and never give up." Thalira approached him, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. You have done more than survive, Elias Kane. You have changed the galaxy's perception of your species. Humans will no longer be underestimated. Others will think twice before dismissing you. You are a symbol, not of domination, but of what humanity can achieve when it rises to the challenge. He felt the weight of her words, but also a deep sense of accomplishment. He had represented not just himself, not just Earth, but the ingenuity, resilience, and spirit of humanity itself. They had faced the impossible and prevailed. In the days that followed, humanity's place in galactic politics began to shift. Other species approached Earth for dialogue, seeking alliances, strategies, and counsel. Humans were no longer minor players. They were contributors, thinkers, leaders, and symbols of potential. Even those who had doubted Elias now saw the value of a species often underestimated. Elias continued to work with Thalira and the Council, training humans and aliens alike in the methods that had succeeded against the Predator. He shared lessons on observation, adaptation, teamwork, and creative problem-solving. Slowly, the galaxy began to understand that survival and success were not determined solely by power, weapons, or technology. They were determined by intelligence, courage, and the ability to adapt in ways no one could predict. As the Queen watched him one evening, Elias reflected on everything he had faced. From the first moment he had stepped into the Hall of Zyphera, to the trials on alien worlds, to the confrontation with the Predator, he had learned more about humanity than he had in all his years on Earth. Humans were underestimated not because they were weak, but because they were different. And it was precisely that difference that made them extraordinary. The galaxy had been changed by a single human, guided not by arrogance but by thought, courage, and cooperation. And as he looked out at the stars, Elias knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had proven itself capable of surviving where others would fail, of thinking where others would panic, and of uniting where others would fight. He had not only survived, he had inspired. And in that inspiration lay the true power of humanity, the ability to rise above expectation, to turn weakness into strength, and to carve a place in the stars for a species once thought insignificant. Elias smiled faintly. The Predator was gone, the galaxy had seen what humans could do, and Earth's first ambassador beyond its home planet had fulfilled his mission. Yet in the quiet moments, he knew the galaxy would continue to challenge humanity. New threats would arise, new dangers would appear, and new opportunities would demand courage and intelligence. But now he understood something vital. Humans could face any challenge and adapt, survive, and even thrive. Queen Thalira stood beside him, her eyes watching the horizon. "The galaxy will remember this day," she said softly. "Not just the Predator's defeat, but the rise of humanity. And you, Elias Kane, will be remembered as the human who showed the stars what your species is capable of." They were survivors, thinkers, and symbols of possibility. And in the vastness of the galaxy, Elias Kane had shown them exactly what that meant.